January 30th, 1945, a freezing night in the Baltic Sea. The MV Wilhelm Gustloff, packed with 10,600 refugees fleeing the advancing Soviet army, is torpedoed by a Russian submarine. In just 40 minutes, the ship sinks. Over 9,400 people die, 6 times more deaths than the Titanic. It's the deadliest maritime disaster in history, but almost nobody knows about it. Why? Because the victims were German, and history is written by the victors. This is the story of MV Wilhelm Gustloff. Let me tell you something most people don't know. The Wilhelm Gustloff wasn't just a refugee ship. It was a propaganda weapon that became a mass grave. 1937. Nazi Germany builds the Wilhelm Gustloff as a cruise ship for the workers, part of the Kraft durch Freude program, strength through joy. The idea: give ordinary Germans cheap vacations to build loyalty to the Nazi regime. The ship is massive, 684 feet long, luxurious, built to carry 1,900 passengers in comfort. It becomes a symbol of Nazi Germany's power and prosperity. But here's the twist: the ship is cursed from the beginning. Named after Wilhelm Gustloff, a Nazi party leader assassinated by a Jewish student in 1936, the Nazis turned him into a martyr. The ship carries his name, and it will carry thousands to their deaths. 1939, World War II begins. The luxury cruise ship becomes a military vessel. First a hospital ship, then a barracks for U-boat trainees. The Nazi swastika painted on its hull, a floating piece of the Third Reich. For 6 years, the Gustloff serves the Nazi war machine, training submariners, housing troops, a weapon of war disguised as a passenger ship. January 1945, the war is ending. Nazi Germany is collapsing. The Soviet Red Army is advancing from the east, sweeping through East Prussia. Millions of German civilians are fleeing westward in terror. Why? Because the Red Army is taking revenge for years of Nazi brutality, for 27 million Soviet dead. The advancing Soviet soldiers are killing, raping, destroying everything German in their path. The German civilians in East Prussia face a choice: stay and face the Soviets or flee by sea to Western Germany. The Wilhelm Gustloff, the propaganda ship, the symbol of Nazi power, now becomes an evacuation vessel. One last mission: save German refugees. January 30, 1945. Gotenhofen Port, now Gdynia, Poland. The Wilhelm Gustloff is being loaded. But this isn't an orderly evacuation. This is chaos. The ship was built for 1,900 passengers. Today, over 10,600 people are crammed aboard. Women, children, elderly, wounded soldiers, pregnant women, entire families with whatever belongings they could carry. Let me break down who's actually on board. 918 German naval officers and trainees, 373 female naval auxiliaries, 162 wounded soldiers, over 9,000 civilian refugees, mostly women and children. Why so many? Because this might be their last chance. The Soviets are 30 miles away. There's no time, no other ships available. Get on board or die. The refugees are packed into every available space: hallways, swimming pools, ballrooms, engine rooms. People sleeping standing up, no room to sit, no room to breathe. 4 other ships are also evacuating people that day, but the Gustloff is the largest, the most crowded, the most desperate. 4 p.m., Captain Friedrich Petersen gives the order. Despite the overload, despite the ice, despite the Soviet submarines hunting in these waters, they're sailing. The temperature is -18 degrees Celsius. The Baltic Sea is partially frozen, ice chunks floating everywhere. The The water temperature is 4 degrees Celsius. Survival time if you fall in, 20 minutes maximum. Captain Peterson faces an impossible choice: sail close to shore in shallow water, safer from submarines but filled with mines, or sail in deep water, safer from mines but vulnerable to submarines. He chooses deep water. Fatal mistake. The ship has 4 captains on board, 4 different people giving orders: naval captain, merchant captain, military transport officer, training commander. Nobody is clearly in charge. Chaos. The Wilhelm Gustloff sails into the night. No escort ships, minimal protection, a sitting target packed with 10,600 souls. 9 p.m. The Soviet submarine S-13, commanded by Captain Alexander Marinesko, detects the Wilhelm Gustloff. Marinesko is a controversial figure, skilled submariner, but also a drunk, a womanizer, facing court-martial for repeated misconduct. This patrol is his last chance to prove himself. He tracks the Gustloff, closes distance, aims. 9:16 p.m. 3 torpedoes launch. Boom! The first torpedo hits the bow. The swimming pool, now packed with refugee women and children, is instantly flooded. Everyone inside dies in seconds. Boom! The second torpedo strikes the engine room. The ship loses all power. Lights out. Emergency systems dead. The ship is plunged into darkness. Boom! The third torpedo hits below the waterline amidships. The ship's structure is broken. Panic, screaming, chaos. 10,600 people in total darkness on a sinking ship. The Wilhelm Gustloff begins to list. People stampede toward the deck, but the corridors are jammed. Thousands of refugees packed so tight they can't move. They're crushed, trampled, suffocated. The lifeboats are frozen solid. Ice has locked them in place. The crew tries to break them free, but there are only enough lifeboats for 1,900 people anyway, not 10,600. Some lifeboats launch, immediately capsize in the freezing water. The passengers, wearing heavy winter coats, sink like stones. The ship is listing 20 degrees, 30 degrees, 40 degrees. People slide across decks, fall into the freezing sea. The water is so cold it feels like knives stabbing your skin. Children are separated from parents in the chaos, families torn apart. People jumping into the water. Better to die quickly than be trapped inside. 9:56 p.m. Just 40 minutes after the torpedoes hit, the Wilhelm Gustloff capsizes and sinks. 10,600 people were on board. Over 9,400 die. Only 1,200 survive. Here's what makes the Wilhelm Gustloff unique. It's the deadliest maritime disaster in history, but almost nobody talks about it. Why? Because the victims were German. And in 1945, nobody wanted to hear about German suffering. The world had just discovered the Holocaust, the concentration camps, the Nazi atrocities. German suffering wasn't sympathetic. The Soviet Union suppressed the story. Captain Marinesko, the submarine commander who sank the Gustloff, was initially denied recognition. Why? Because he torpedoed a refugee ship. Even the Soviets knew it looked bad. Decades later, he was declared a hero of the Soviet Union, but the story stayed buried. The Wilhelm Gustloff carried a swastika. It had trained U-boat crews. It was a Nazi ship. So the world said they got what they deserved. But here's the truth. 9,400 dead. Mostly women, children, and elderly. Refugees fleeing war, innocent civilians. They didn't design Nazi policy. They were just trying to survive. History buried them because their deaths were inconvenient, because they were on the wrong side, because sympathy for Germans in 1945 was impossible. The Titanic killed 1,500. Everyone knows that story. Movies, books, memorials. The Wilhelm Gustloff killed 9,400, 6 times more, and almost nobody knows. The wreck of the Wilhelm Gustloff sits in 144 feet of water in the Baltic Sea. It's a war grave, protected, off limits. 9,400 people are still inside. The Wilhelm Gustloff isn't just a maritime disaster. It's a reminder that history is selective, that some tragedies get remembered and some get buried, that victors write the narrative. Those 9,400 people, mostly women and children, deserve to be remembered, not because they were German, but because they were human. Remember the forgotten 9,400. Question whose suffering gets acknowledged, and understand that tragedy doesn't care about nationality.